Yeah, I really didn't expect that, Ryan. You're known to like youth, and Stewart certainly doesn't fall under that category. Matt, what are your thoughts about Stewart landing in New York?
I'm definitely more pessimistic than Ryan between health issues and that offensive line just being terrible. I don't know. I don't know. I think he's going to be like a touchdown play. Like if you start him in a fantasy league, I think you're probably going to be pretty unhappy if you don't get a touchdown out of it. You know, they still got Gallman, who showed that he was a pretty good receiving back last season. So I'm guessing he doesn't see too much that direction. And then if for whatever reason Cleveland doesn't take Saquon Barkley at number one, then I think that doesn't take them out of play for that at number two. So there's potential that he's just going to be a goal line kind of short yardage back, I think.
Yeah, if he's the only addition to that backfield, there's the potential for Stewart to be useful to dynasty owners for sure. But I think there's still the potential, and there still could come another day in this offseason where we see another running back added, and the Stewart moves just looks like something from the past and a blip on the radar, and we don't really see a lot from that. But time will tell when it comes to Jonathan Stewart being a Giant. Let's move on to a little more exciting position group, the wide receivers. One of the biggest names to drop in free agency this year was Allen Robinson. I think all of us were sitting close to our phones and close to the TVs to see where A-Rob would land. And it seems he's going to be a Bear, Ryan. Oh, as a Packer fan, I don't want to see Allen Robinson in a Bear uniform, but man, it makes a little bit of sense with Trubisky. I could see the same kind of production Robinson had with Bortles with this young quarterback in Chicago. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's and I can feel your pain as a Packer fan. I understand that because I think it's a nice landing spot. I woke up to that news this morning and jumped on Twitter and said, I think it's kind of an upgrade for Allen Robinson from Jacksonville. But the more I thought about it, I think it's a really nice upgrade. He's clearly going to be the top option. Obviously, that probably would have been true just about anywhere he went. So that part is not a surprise. But, the coaching change there with Nagy coming in from the Chiefs, they're clearly making moves to improve their offense. We'll talk maybe about a couple other moves they made as well later in the show. But Robinson's the headliner, and I think he could be pretty quickly valued back in that wide receiver one range.
Yeah, I think so too. I think his value spiked dramatically, and I alluded to that a little bit. Matt, what are your thoughts on Robinson landing with the Bears?
As a Packer fan, I hate it. The Bears are getting better. The Vikings are getting better. And look at the Packers. We're just treading water again, right? So, man, I was really hoping we get Robinson or Watkins, one of these guys, if we were going to let Jordy go. Like, we're going to get to that. Sorry, spoiler alert. But from a fantasy perspective, I mean, you have to like it. I think, like Ryan said, he's going to be a high-end wide receiver 2, fringe wide receiver 1, maybe just based on volume alone. Compared to what he was going to see in Jacksonville with the way they've changed their offense up. So I think you have to like it. I'm not afraid of Cam Meredith. I like him as a player, but he's no threat to Robinson. Kevin White's no threat to him. Kendall Wright's no threat to him. There's no one there to challenge him in terms of the volume that he's going to get. So I think we're going to see like true wide receiver 1 target numbers from him. So it's going to rely a lot on the development of Trubisky a lot to see what his ceiling might be. But with that, like Ryan said, with the new coaching staff and everything, they went out and got their wide receiver 1. So I don't know how you can be upset about this move, honestly.
As a Robinson owner in many leagues, I wanted him to land either in Chicago or in San Francisco with those young quarterbacks and guys that I thought could get him the ball. So I'm real happy with the landing spot. Only 24 years old. Going to be 25 right before the season starts. And you have to imagine that if he hadn't gotten hurt last year, that even more people would be talking about Allen Robinson right now and what he could potentially do. I think he could make an instant impact for both dynasty owners and the Chicago Bears, obviously. Another wide receiver that could make a big impact for his team and his dynasty owners is Jarvis Landry, Matt. This is a really interesting one, and we alluded to it earlier, or at least Ryan did, that Cleveland's trying to win some games. They're trying to get better right now. They added the quarterback. We talked about him a little bit. They're obviously going to add some more playmakers, or at least one or two early in the first couple of days of the draft. But Landry lands in Cleveland as well. What are your initial thoughts of Jarvis Landry wearing a Browns uniform?
There was a lot of hate about it on Twitter when it came out, and I think most like the consensus feeling is that it's at least a slight hit, if not a big hit to his value. I don't really see it that way. I think it offers them a lot of creativity, and with Tyrod there, he's not really the technician type of quarterback that we've seen. He's more of a, he did very well with Watkins on the deep ball, that kind of thing. He's more of a feel kind of quarterback than he is a technician, so to speak. But Landry, I think, is going to be able to provide a nice safety valve, especially on rollouts, which Tyrod Taylor is very good at doing. So if he can kind of get on the same page with Landry and they build that rapport, I think it's going to be really profitable. I don't know if we'll see Landry catch, 105, 110 balls anymore, but I bet we still see 85 to 90 pretty easily.
Yeah, I think easily as well. And I think there's still the potential for him to hit triple digits, be that same receiver that we've gotten used to with the Dolphins. Ryan, what are your thoughts of Landry and even the other pass catchers in Cleveland, Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman, and Njoku? I am shying away from Coleman, but the other two seem like they should be able to hold their value. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree completely. I don't really think it affects Gordon at all. I mean, they're just about as different as two wide receivers can be. So not worried about that. I do agree with Coleman. I think it's a knock on him, maybe not because they play similar style, but just from a matter of playing time. And if they're making a move for a second or a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 1, however you want to rank Gordon and Landry, but if they're making a move to upgrade that wide receiver position, clearly it's a statement towards how they feel about Corey Coleman.
Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll edit him out.
I can keep talking about that if you want.
Okay, I'll transition to you. Hold on just a second. Aaron, just find a good stopping point for Ryan's audio there. We will carry on. I'll lead Matt in here, and he can take it from there as soon as Ryan gets back. Just keep your recording going, Matt.
Yeah.
So I saw you posted the Mo Wilkerson money, or Ryan did. That's not nearly as bad as.
No, that's fine. That's totally fine. I'm fine.
Contract-wise, that's great. Really.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and the 1 year thing, even awesome.
Let's because if he's a cancer, then whatever, we get him out of there after 1 year.
Right, and his best year was under Pettin in Cleveland,
for sure,
or in New York.
Yeah,
when he was the defensive coordinator. So I could see something maybe being a positive there.
Yeah,
I didn't get to talk to you about the Jimmy Graham thing. What are your
I like it.
What you thought of when you saw it? What did you think?
I thought he's going to catch double-digit touchdowns, and I don't know about the yardage, but I think that it's such a shame that they had to let Jordy go. I know they had to, but
yeah,
man, I think Rodgers could have probably, if they had both Jordy and him, and Jordy was the Jordy we've all grown to love. He was even fine, I thought, last year with Rodgers, but I think he could have approached 50 touchdowns, man. I think it would have been a huge season for Rodgers if they could have kept both those guys. So we'll see.
I think so too, and I when I first read it, I thought maybe there was a chance they were going to bring him back or something, but obviously not. If they released him, they would have just restructured his deal or whatever. Ryan, I think you had a good stopping point there, so I'm just going to lead Matt in, okay?
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
No worries. Nothing hurt. Matt, what are your thoughts on Jarvis Landry in Cleveland and also those other pass catchers there in Cleveland with him? Let me do that again.
Yeah, I already talked about Landry, so maybe I'll just talk about the other weapons.
Yeah. That's what I meant. Matt, did you have anything to add to Gordon and Coleman and Njoku's value there in Cleveland?
Yeah, I agree that it definitely affects Coleman's dynasty value for sure, and probably his production as well. I'm not sure if it says anything about how they necessarily feel about him, because every team these days needs 3 wide receivers, right? So, I think the NFL average is like 70% now, three wide receiver sets. So, they really have nothing behind Gordon and Coleman at this point, unless you're big on Rashad Higgins still, or Jordan Taylor, or one of these other rookies that they drafted when they threw like 5 of them at the dartboard a couple of seasons ago. So, I think that him and Njoku are really going to do well to dominate the middle and short areas of the field. And you can send Gordon and Coleman deep, both of them. And they're going to have to cover one of them. Say what you will about Coleman and his hands and his health the last couple of years, but when he's on the field and healthy, he's a fast guy and can kind of stretch the defense there and open things up for the middle. And then if they get Saquon too, like the mismatches they're going to be able to play in the secondary, especially at the linebackers with Njoku and Landry and Saquon Barkley back there. That's going to be really something special to see, I think, underneath with those 2 guys stretching the field. So I'm pretty excited about this offense. I said on Twitter the other day, do I have to be called a bandwagon fan if I jump on Cleveland right now before they do anything? And I'm ready to jump on that bandwagon, man. If I am, call me a bandwagon fan, whatever. But I really like what they're doing so far.
Yeah, going back to what Ryan said about maybe Coleman's value dropping, I tend to agree. I still think that the truthers out there, the big Coleman fans, at the very least can hang on to that best ball value. There's still the potential for him to get deep at any time and make those big plays. I just don't know if he'll ever get enough targets to be considered an every week starter in our game. But as far as best ball goes, there's still certainly some potential there because of his deep skills. The other real big name to sign in free agency, or at least supposed to sign once free agency begins, is Sammy Watkins signing with the Chiefs, Ryan. This was an interesting one. There was rumors going around that maybe the Packers would be interested. I'm just not a big Sammy Watkins fan. I've never really been. I'm just fine with him landing in Kansas City. What are your thoughts there?
I don't think it really boost his dynasty stock at all. I don't know what spot I was hoping for. I guess maybe the Packers. You always think about that as a nice landing spot for an offensive player, especially a wide receiver. But outside of that, I was just hoping for a good landing spot that he could really show off his talent. I'm not sure if this is it. He seems like kind of like a similar skill set to my guy Tyreek Hill, so I found it odd based on that, and it just feels kind of like a luxury signing for the Chiefs. I think they have some other needs, especially on defense, as they've made a couple big cuts, both this week with Tamba Hali. I know he was certainly slowing down towards the end of his career, but I kind of feel like they could have spent that money at another position. To me, Watkins is a sell if anybody likes the landing spot, and if anybody thinks it's hurt Hill or Kelsey, then I would be buying those guys.
Yeah, you said exactly what I was thinking. I mentioned it. I'm fine with it. I'm just not that excited. I've never been excited about Sammy Watkins, so I probably shouldn't even comment too much. I'll add Patrick Mahomes to that group. If for some reason somebody feels differently about Patrick Mahomes, you could add him to those pass catchers that you mentioned. Matt, what are your thoughts on Watkins and with the Chiefs?
I don't hate it as much. Well, I guess you guys don't hate it. That's a strong word, but I guess I like it a little bit more than you guys. I think that, you cannot, if you're a Patrick Mahomes fan and you're Patrick Mahomes and you fail with this set of weapons, then you're good. Good luck the rest of the season, man. With Watkins and Tyreek Hill and Kelsey and Kareem Hunt in the backfield, like that is a really nice set of weapons for a new quarterback to grow into. I think it could be a little bit rough in year one, but I do think like Ryan's right that there are some similarities between Watkins and Tyreek Hill. But I do think Watkins is a very good route runner, so I think he could add that there and play a lot of the shorter and intermediate stuff. I think it's going to be good if Mahomes and him can have a rapport and get on the same page, because I think he offers something a little bit different than Tyreek does. I think he's got the deep speed too, but in terms of being able to separate based on just routes, I think Watkins has Tyreek Hill there. But Mahomes is more of that kind of gunslinger quarterback, so he might just kind of clue in on Tyreek Hill anyway. So it's kind of up in the air. I don't think it really shifts his dynasty value for me one way or the other. I think he's still kind of in that same range for me. Based on where he was in LA last year, I think the volume is probably going to go up. I think he probably has more than 70 targets or whatever it was that he had last season. So I think in terms of a volume situation, it definitely is better for him in Kansas City.
Couple other wide receivers that signed, Matt, in Miami, Danny Amendola and Albert Wilson. Quickly, what are your thoughts on those two? And if there's one that you want to add, who is it?
No, I hate both of these signings. Just re-sign. You paid. I don't know what the contract was on Amendola at this point, but whatever the long-term deal for Landry was, just pay that money to Landry instead of signing these two guys. I don't understand how Albert Wilson gets $28 million. Was it $24 million? 3 years for $24 million. I don't understand how a guy like Albert Wilson gets that. Ryan, I know we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but Ryan Grant, same situation in Baltimore. How does this guy get $29 million?
Yeah, it's really crazy, some of the money that was out there. Speaking of Ryan Grant, Ryan, he and John Brown signed in Baltimore. Are you excited about either one of these guys?
No. I mean, I like John Brown, love the talent there. We've seen what he can do, but we also know the story as far as health. So if he can stay healthy, great. I'm certainly not willing to spend much to find out, though. The Ravens, I mean, even though they pass the ball a ton, they still somehow have a terrible offense for fantasy owners. They still need to make a lot of moves here. They've been projected to maybe take Calvin Ridley or someone like that in the first round. They still need to make some moves. I will say, going back to Miami, I mean, Albert Wilson is not a guy typically that I would be excited about or be a big fan of, but based on the fact that how they've used Landry in the past, based on the payday that they gave this guy, I mean, he's a player I would target, assuming he's maybe on some waiver wires. I mean, he could easily see, 70 or 80 or 90 targets.
Yeah. Are you paying something for him though, Ryan? Are you giving like a third or something for him?
I mean, maybe a late third, but
yeah.
I mean, more of a waiver wire target in shallow leagues.
Sure.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy I play in a lot of salary cap leagues. He's going to be in free agent auctions, and for those still doing startups, a guy worth monitoring for sure is a guy you can add to the end of your bench and see what happens, because he could easily outperform a $1 salary in a cap league. Another guy, speaking of salaries, Paul Richardson signed a massive contract, or will at least tomorrow. He's coming off his best season as a pro, 44 catches, 700 yards, and 6 touchdowns in Seattle. Parlayed that into a 5-year, $40 million contract in Washington, Matt. What are your thoughts on Paul Richardson and his dynasty upside?
I don't know how well he messaged with Alex Smith. I know Alex Smith kind of changed his game around last season. Tyreek made him a very good deep ball thrower. Paul Richardson is a guy I liked in Seattle with Russell Wilson, as someone who can, move out of the pocket and make plays. And Alex Smith can certainly do that to some extent. But I just don't know where he fits in that offense. Does that mean that Doxson is not going to be a thing? Are both of those guys going to start outside with Crowder in the slot, and they're just not going to really count on Jordan Reed or any tight end at all this season? I just don't really know how that fits with Washington. It doesn't really excite me very much. I was hoping he would go to maybe a more prolific passing offense and really be able to show us what he can do. But they paid him the money, so they must like him. He's a guy that I have a lot on the end of my roster on a lot of dynasty teams, and I'm probably still going to hold unless somebody calls and is very excited about it. I don't think you can cut him after this, or really. Shut up, Siri. Sorry, Aaron. But it's just kind of like, I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about it. Just kind of like a meh feeling when I think about it. It's not exciting to me at all. Uh-oh. Is my audio bad again?
Yeah, Richardson. Oh, what?
You cut
No,
out
I
or
could hear you the
something,
whole time.
Dan, you froze or something.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard all of that, so I'll just re-lead back in.
Okay.
What a shit show. Sorry, Aaron.
Sorry, Aaron. Yeah, as a Dachshund fan, I was disappointed to see the signing. Like you said, another deep threat on that team probably doesn't spell good things for Dachshund, as that's the role I seen him playing. And the dynasty upside that I saw with Dachshund, it was had everything to do with being a red zone threat, the big red zone target, and the deep threat. And Richardson steps on the toes of that. Marquise Lee re-signed in Jacksonville. Dante Moncrief also goes to Jacksonville. Ryan, what are your thoughts there?
I just feel like they have 4 wide receiver 2s or 3s. I mean, they've got those 2 guys. They have D.D. Westbrook. They have Keelan Cole. I don't know that I really want any of those guys. If Moncrief is cheap, I would take a shot on him. Hopefully making some type of comeback. But other than that, I mean, do we want these guys that Blake Bortles is going to be throwing the ball to?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question, and probably a question for somebody better than me to answer. Matt, are you the guy that could answer that for me?
I don't know if I'm the guy who could answer it, but I kind of think that this means that either Keelan Cole and D.D. Westbrook is going to be like an actual, real startable asset next season, So I've always seen Moncrief as a guy who's going to be very touchdown reliant. I thought the best returning spot for him was with a healthy Andrew Luck back in Indy, but they clearly didn't see him as part of their plan. So he's going to see much less volume than he would see in that Indy offense. So again, I think he's one of these. What the heck? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
There's 2 of you.
It disconnected and then it. Oh my God.
That was weird.
Oh my
Matt,
God, this is horrible.
Matt, if you're right about that, then it must be Keelan Cole, because it's not D.D. Westbrook that's going to be startable.
Oh, okay. I'll take your word for it. I don't really have a preference between the two. I have like kind of some flyer shares of both, but don't really have too much invested in either of them.
Personally, I've been a Moncrief fan in the past, and I've fallen off that bandwagon over the last 12 or 18 months. And this move does not make me want to jump right back on. Going from Andrew Luck to whatever else was in Indianapolis and now down to Blake Bortles, nothing to get excited about. For sure. One last bit of news that I wanted to touch on, mostly because I'm a Packer fan, and more news will probably drop before some of our listeners hear this. But I wanted to talk about it, and that's Jordy Nelson and his release in Green Bay. It's a sad day for us, Matt. Huge Jordy Nelson fan. I'm sure you are as well. I love his grit and his energy and how he turned into such a big playmaker for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. But as a dynasty owner, there's potential still for maybe a year of production if he lands in the right place. First, what are your thoughts, Matt, on Nelson and his release from Green Bay? And then secondly, where would you like to see him sign?
I really wish they would have been able to find a way to bring him back, but I get it. He had a $10.2 million coming to him this season, and that's probably a little bit of an overpay for a 33-year-old wide receiver. They end up saving like $8 million against the cap or something like that. So I understand it, but I really don't like it. In terms of his future value with another team, I'm not sure about landing spot, but it just seems like he was a guy that him and Rodgers just had that connection. And I'm not 100% sure he's going to be able to find that with another team and another quarterback, at least unless he signs pretty quickly here and is able to get into camp and start building that relationship with the new quarterback. So I do worry about him a little bit coming up in terms of having him on a dynasty team. I think he's really like a wide receiver 3 or later at this point right now. If you can sell him for a late second, I think that might even be optimistic. Then it's probably a good move at this point.
Ryan, do you have any thoughts on Jordy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys. I've said before, I don't really have an NFL team that I cheer for, but if I had to pick one, it probably would be the Packers. And I've been a Jordy Nelson fan as well. So kind of sad to see it go this way, but it makes sense. And that's just part of the business, I guess. I did actually see there were rumors of a contract extension for Randall Cobb, which surprised me a little. I'm sure that is just working around the salary cap and lightening his 2018 cap hit more than anything else. But I am hoping he gets to stay with the Packers at least.
Yeah, I'd like to see him stay as well. As far as Nelson's potential landing spots, I just really hope he lands with a quarterback that is accurate more than anything. Nelson isn't as fast as he once was, but still a great route runner. That back shoulder throw is his bread and butter. And with Aaron Rodgers, he had that. He won't have that with a lot of the quarterbacks that are in the league. If he can find his way to a quarterback that can make that throw, we might be able to squeeze a little bit more dynasty value out of our good friend Jordy. Let's move on to the tight ends before we call it a show, fellas. Staying in Green Bay, I feel like this is a reboot of the last couple of years in free agency, Matt. Jimmy Graham to the Packers. Packers constantly looking for that vertical threat at the tight end position. They've tried it many times over the last few years. Is Jimmy Graham the one that's going to stick and be that vertical threat in Green Bay for Aaron Rodgers?
Is he going to be your Martellus Bennett again this year, Dan?
Don't even bring it up.
Man, I mean, the upside is out of control for this move. I think with Jordy moving on, this gives them a real red zone presence. I think Graham could easily catch 10 touchdowns in this offense. Assuming that Jimmy Graham and not like the ghost of Martellus Bennett that we saw last season. You know, in Seattle, he had double-digit touchdowns last year, but his yardage totals were pretty low. I just don't think they ever really found a way to use them. I think Rodgers is going to love having this giant target back there. So, I mean, I got to say buying in at this point, and I know a lot of people are saying go ahead and use this as an opportunity to sell Graham. If I'm a contender and I have a hole of tight end, I don't mind buying Graham at all right now.
Yeah, a year ago, I read a couple of times that Martellus Bennett was the poor man's Jimmy Graham, and the Packers had gotten that guy, and I bought into that. And now it's not the poor man's Jimmy Graham anymore; it's the actual Jimmy Graham. And you can say what you want about all the knee injuries or the big knee injury, and his age is climbing now as well. He'll turn 32 during the season, Ryan. I'm on board with it. I told you guys before the show started that I've never owned Jimmy Graham in a league. I have a feeling that's going to change this offseason.
Yeah, I like the move a lot as well, both for the Packers and for fantasy. Tight end is pretty ugly outside of those top four guys right now when you're looking at dynasty ranks or ADP. So I think Graham has a chance to really recoup some of that value. And for me, he had moved out of my top 10 tight ends. I think he's outside of the top 10 in ADP as well. I think he could really jump right back up into the middle of that top 10 with this move. And in a lot of ways, I think he's just going to replace Jordy. In basically, we saw Adams replace Jordy as the go-to target between the 20s last year, especially, but basically as the acting as the wide receiver one for the Packers. And now I think we could see Graham replace him as the main red zone target. So I don't know. We could see something similar to what we did last year in Seattle, where he doesn't necessarily have a ton of targets or yardage, but I know Rich Rebar once called him the best red zone back in the league. And that's kind of how he was used last year.
Yeah, and I'm with Matt. I feel like the Seahawks never fully figured out how to use Jimmy Graham after he came over in that trade with the Saints. And that's not to say that the Packers will know how. McCarthy wasn't using Martellus Bennett to what he has had as his strengths throughout his career either. But we've seen Aaron Rodgers use that position and use it well, especially those vertical pass catchers in the past, and I could see Graham filling that role. I'm with you guys. I think the years of 80 plus catches and 1,000 plus yards are probably in his past, but double-digit touchdowns is certainly something he can still reach. And as I've said many times in the pod in the past, any pass catcher attached to Aaron Rodgers is a pass catcher I want on my dynasty team, even if he's 31 or 32. Another tight end I was really intrigued with this offseason and really wanted to know where he would landed in Chicago, and that's Trey Burton, Matt. So on top of seeing Allen Robinson play in that offense, with that young quarterback. We get to see Trey Burton stretch the middle of the Packers defense. What do you think about Trey Burton? I was a big fan, Matt. I thought in the right situation, he could flourish and make that leap potentially into a back end tight end one. I am liking this landing spot for the same reasons I liked Allen Robinson. They need more than one pass catcher in Chicago. They can support another one, and I think Trey Burton can fill that role. The Bears might have got 2 pass catchers that can help out dynasty owners on Tuesday. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree to some extent. I do think it caps his upside a little bit, unless they're going to run just a ton of 2 tight end sets, because I think I liked what we saw out of Shaheen last year in limited work, and it was hopeful that he was going to take a step this year. So it does limit his development and his upside a little bit, at least from a fantasy perspective. But, like you said, there's just a dearth of pass catchers there. So they need all the ones they can get. And Burton and Shaheen could easily be the second and third option in that passing game if they choose not to address it in the draft at all. So I like it. I think there are better spots he could have gone to where there wasn't, another young challenger there that also wanted some playing time. So I like it, but I think there was better spots.
Yeah, I agree. What about or Matt? I obviously disagree. I really liked the landing spot and think that Trubisky needs that underneath pass catcher as well as that middle of the field vertical seam stretcher. Ryan, do you have any thoughts on Burton in Chicago?
Yeah, Burton was one of the guys, even with this stacked free agent class, Burton was one of the guys I was most looking forward to seeing where he landed. I do kind of agree with Matt. I was hoping for a better spot, maybe more because I too like Adam Shaheen's chances. This kind of squashes those. I think considering what they paid Burton, they're viewing him as the starter, as the one who's going to be on the field the most, which is good news for me because I was able to acquire him in a few spots. And I'm just kind of getting excited to see this rebuilt Chicago offense. And I think the guy, we talked about Allen Robinson quite a bit earlier. They also added Taylor Gabriel, formerly of the Falcons, along with Burton. They've got Cohen there as another pass catcher. I think the guy really to talk about here is Trubisky and how high he can climb in dynasty value.
Yeah, perhaps he's that guy that makes that leap like we've seen so many times in the last few years, those second and third year quarterbacks that move from our quarterback 2 ranks into our quarterback 1 ranks. The last tight end move that I'd like to talk about, fellas, is a surprising one to me, at least to some extent. It's Cameron Brate re-signing or getting that extension in Tampa Bay, even after the Bucs used that first-round pick on O.J. Howard a year ago. Brate has caught a lot of touchdowns. He's made an impression. Undrafted free agent, was a dynasty darling over the last couple of years, really, Matt. It was a little bit of a head scratcher for me. I expected O.J. Howard to take a little bit bigger role in his second season, but obviously Brate being one of Jameis Winston's biggest and best targets in that offense, he's going to be there to stay for a while, signing that 6-year deal. What are your thoughts on Brate going back to Tampa Bay?
Yeah, it makes a little bit of sense because Tampa Bay likes to run that 2 tight end offense. So it makes sense. I think it's going to be absolutely frustrating for dynasty owners and for fantasy owners in general, really. Most of us that have him invested a first round pick in him if you wanted to get him last year in rookie draft. Going to, I think he still has touchdown upside, but when's it going to come? I know that's a question with every tight end, but now you have 2 guys that the team is invested in. $41 million. I know it's not all that is guaranteed. We don't have the guarantees yet, I don't think, on that contract. But that says that they really like him and want to use him. So I don't know how it's good news for O.J. Howard.
Yeah, if you're an O.J. Howard owner, Ryan, you got to be dropping your head right now that Brate signed that deal.
Yeah, it's certainly a little frustrating. I'm still a believer in Howard's talent, though, and we are still talking dynasty leagues. I don't know if anyone was viewing Howard as their locked-in starter in 2018 anyway. When we're talking fantasy. So to me, it's a buying opportunity for Howard at the right price. But yeah, for the short term, it's going to be a little frustrating. I've really noticed, and I'm sure others have as well, Brate's relationship with Jameis Winston, and really Winston's relationship with all of his tight ends. In college, he turned Nick O'Leary into one of the top tight ends in college, and in those years they played together. And then Brate, who pretty much entered the league as a no-name, turned him in.
Oh, Jesus. Oh man, Ryan's gone again.
All right, we'll just transition.
Jeez. Transition to close out the show, because
we're gonna close out. I'd like to talk about Deion Lewis quick. I was gonna.
Jump back to Deion Lewis. We should jump in back with that for sure.
Jeez,
what a nightmare! Maybe its Hangout is just terrible.
I don't know what's the matter. Okay, hold on. I can finish that. Okay. So because of that, sorry, hold on.
That's going on the outtakes.
It definitely is. And then last year when Winston was out, we saw Brate go from basically a fantasy starter to almost being completely ignored in the offense. So to me, that was real evidence of the impact that Winston and Brate have on one another. And I could see that continuing at least for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I completely understand what both of you are saying, and I was nodding my head as each of you were talking, because everything you said was true. I still like OJ Howard. I still think he has that upside, but Brate's going to be there, and Brate's going to take away especially red zone looks. So I was nodding my head then, and then while you were talking, Ryan, I continued to nod my head as you were talking about how much Jameis Winston likes these guys, and at the end of it all, what does it all equal? It equals a headache for dynasty owners, because we don't know who to start. You mentioned that OJ Howard wasn't going to be penciled in as the starter for anybody, but I think a lot of us owners were thinking of him as maybe he can take the next step throughout 2018 and become one of those guys that you can plug and play if you need him, and then maybe move on from that a year later. Now I think that casts a dark shadow over all that potential that he has, and I just don't know if we're going to see that realized over the next year or so. The last guy I want to talk to about a little bit of breaking news. We don't have any audio to go along with it like those fancy ones out there, but Deion Lewis signed while we were recording tonight. It's old news. Thank you, Matt. It's old news for those of you listening, probably, but it is brand new news to us. So Lewis, Ryan, lands in Tennessee, which is an interesting landing spot for sure. Of course, DeMarco Murray moving on. Now Lewis takes on that role. I think there were a lot of dynasty owners out there pretty excited about that new starter in Tennessee. Does that cast any doubt on that upside for you?
I think it does for sure. I had some concerns about Henry already, so I've been on board with trying to sell him. In fact, I did sell him in one league in a package deal that got me Tyreek Hill. So I was pretty happy with that one. I still am, even after all of today's news. But I think it actually kind of flips the script now. So we all knew Tennessee would bring in a running back to pair with Henry. I thought it would be more like a Jerick McKinnon type, more like that third down pass catcher type. Lewis did play a lot more in the passing game this past year than he had done earlier in his career. But to me, those two backs are kind of similar. So I'm surprised that that's the move they would make. At the same time, Lewis is a guy who's always struggled to stay healthy. I mean, you cheer for those guys to stay on the field, but as fantasy owners, we also have to be realistic and understand that may be difficult to do. So I think with this move, Henry has gone from a sell for me to a buy, with the idea that the question, I guess, is Lewis going to even be able to stay on the field?
I was perplexed when I saw it. That was one of the last names I would have expected to land in Tennessee. What do you think, Matt?
It makes a little bit of sense to me, because I do think that Lewis Lewis's true value as a pass catcher is going to be helpful for Tennessee, because I don't know if Henry is that. I think he can catch, but I think Lewis is way better at it. Using him as that kind of passing down back is going to extend Lewis's career. We all know he's had health issues throughout his career. Really, the Patriots kind of resurrected it from that. And we talked about numerous times in past episodes about how none of these New England backs are really going to be used as well as they would have been back in New England. So there is that concern for him. I agree with Ryan. I'm going to go ahead and use this as a buying opportunity again for Henry. I think there is going to be a short window here where people are kind of freaking out a little bit, because Rap Sheet reported that he's going to be making top 10 NFL running back money. So they're definitely putting their money where their mouth is in terms of the contract. And if that speaks volumes to how they want to use them, then I think that could cause ripples certainly in the dynasty community and his value in dynasty league. So definitely go out and use that as a buying opportunity. I think he's going to be fine from a fantasy perspective if you just expect that, maybe kind of like, maybe Gio Bernard kind of level production, a little bit inconsistent, but somebody that can get you 5, 6, 7 points in a pinch.
Yeah, Lewis landing in Tennessee to me is just enough to scare me off of Derrick Henry forever. I think you can say what you want about the injury history and everything else. If that contract comes in like they say it's going to come in, and our listeners will know that before we're off the air probably, but it's obvious to me that the Tennessee front office and that coaching staff does not see Derrick Henry as a bell cow 25 carry a game back, and they have concerns about him. So as a dynasty owner, I'm transitioning those concerns onto my roster as well, and I'd be moving on from him if I had him anywhere, which I guess I don't have to worry about because I don't. So I'm sure by the time we sign off here in a couple minutes, more news will break and more players will sign and probably affect what we've said here. And if that happens, we apologize to our listeners. But for my friends Ryan and Matt, I'm Dan Myler. This has been another episode of the DLF Dynasty Podcast. We appreciate you guys listening and hope you catch us again next week.
Sorry, Aaron.
I'm so sorry, Aaron.
That was a mess.
That was an hour and 3 minutes on my recording, and there's going to be like 47 minutes.
If that, like 40 minutes, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was brutal.
Even while I was talking, like you guys were pausing, like the video was pausing, and I was just kept going on like nothing happened. I assume.
Dude, a couple of the times, like the last time, I just was like, okay, he's done. I'm going to start.
What episode was this?
297.
297. What a shit show.
Ryan, I will make a pick.
I'm gonna blame Hangouts because like it signed me out of Google everywhere. Like I had to re-sign in to get back to the agenda and everything.
That was weird. Did you see?
Have I been on the clock for a while? I checked last night, and I was still like 4 picks away.
No, you've been on the clock since like yesterday morning, I think.
No, it must have been this morning. I looked last night.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm wrong. It felt like a long time since I had seen a pick come through, but maybe not.
No, maybe I didn't.
The last pick was... Who was the last pick?
I know I looked at it last night.
The last pick was yesterday at 8:20 Eastern.
PM?
Yep. Hour and a half. I mean, a day ago and an hour. 25 hours ago.
That must have been when I looked. But I thought I was like 4 picks away. There must have been a bunch of them within an hour of each other.
I don't know. It's fine. It's no big deal.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I took a day.
It's probably going to take me a day to find a player. I hate you guys for doing this to me.
I don't even. So you guys are in leagues with Terminal Kennedy, right?
Yes.
Generally, he's pretty good. He just made a really terrible trade. And Capitalist Pigs won. I know that.
Oh, he's made a couple bad ones.
No, he's not that good actually.
He won Pigs 2 last year.
He's nice, but he's not.
Really nice guy.
He won Pigs 2, 56 team league. But anyway, he just traded Antonio Brown, and it is a tight end bonus league for sure. But Antonio Brown and Martellus Bennett for Kenyon Drake and Jimmy Graham.
What?
I know, right?
That is
And the comments
bad one.
were, and I think he offered it. He offered it too, and the comments were, "Why not?"
Were there? That's not contract, is it?
No, but it's ridiculous because I was in talks with them earlier about moving Zeke for Antonio Brown and something else, and then he goes and buys Drake and Graham. So I don't know.
Drake and Graham. Okay, I need to see. I'm going to my leagues that I think I have Graham in.
Yeah, it's time to sell. I changed my mind. If he can get Antonio Brown for Jimmy Graham, I'm selling.
I'm going to Hyperactive 2 right now. I've got Graham, and I think he's
is he in there?
League.
Oh yeah, do it, man.
Oh man, I hope I have him.
Antonio Brown, Martellus Bennett for Kenyon Drake and Jimmy Graham. Ugh.
And just give me like the
Gross
109, and I'll take it.
Yeah, don't even agree.
I sold OJ Howard for 109. You guys like that?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I would. I would probably would. I think you're waiting on him for a while.
I also have Ingram in that same league. So.
That's probably about what you paid for him last year, anyway, right?
I mean, in the range. Like I think it was
107 or something like that. Yeah. So either way, you're either treading water or gaining a little bit.
I've got Ingram.
Yeah.
And Brait.
What did I do there?
So next week we're just going to go back to what we were going to do this week.
Yeah, we'll see.
Unless
something else happens.
Oh, I do have Graham. Hello. Here we go. Terminal Kennedy. What can I ask for? Oh, man, he's rebuilding.
That doesn't help you.
That sucks.
No, that's not good. He doesn't have anybody. He just has picks. Sell Graham for Jordan Howard? Yes, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty much the only player he has. He's got Luck and Watson, but 1-1, 1-5, 1-6. I don't think I can get any of those.
I would take it if you could.
Yeah. Shoot. Pricer, I sent you an offer.
You did? Okay, I'll check it out. I haven't eaten dinner yet though, so I'm gonna take off. I'm gonna go eat some food.
All right. It's not. Oh.
All right. I'll talk to you guys a little later.
Okay, see you, man.
Daddy.
What?
Hi.
Hi.
Mommy.
Are you trying to find a player?
What? You talking to me?
Mommy.
Yeah.
Mommy.
To draft?
Trying to write the synopsis.
No.
I just pulled it up, by the way. I gotta log in here.
Oh no, I just thought that's what you're doing.
Dude, it'll take me forever. You know, I have never drafted a player that I have not watched play.
Yeah, is that gonna change tonight?
I looked last night. I have two names written down here.
Who are they?
I'll see if maybe got picked. Who were the last couple picks?
Marquis Spiker.
Okay, that's not one of them.
I've never heard of him. David Sills from West Virginia. He's good.
Oh shit! I mean, shoot. Okay, I watched him last night. He's on the short list.
Jalen Hall. I've never heard of. LaChristian Smith. Jonathan Giles. Okay, who is it? Who's on your list then?
I wanted David Sills. Isn't it David Sills the fifth or something like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, who else is on your list?
Well, I got two of them, and I don't want to tell you because maybe
okay.
the next one will
No,
come to me in the next
I thought you said you only had one left.
Well, I said I had a couple names.
Yeah, it's two.
Well,
and Sills was gone.
I'm from South Dakota, where a couple can mean 3 or 7, whatever you want. Okay. So, what were your thoughts on Zamir White and Ricky Slade?
I mean, I haven't seen a ton of either one, but I mean, they're the top 2 running backs. So I think
I almost picked Slade with the first round one.
Did you get both of those guys?
Yeah, I was surprised because I watched that Justice Hill when I was doing it too, and I watched AJ Dillon, and I watched JT Daniel or James Cook was the other one who went to Florida State, and I watched AJ James Cook and one other one went. I thought maybe no other freshman went. No other freshman went.
I mean, I'm not.
Hill, I think, was a freshman last year, wasn't he? No, he was a sophomore.
He was a sophomore last year. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But then I looked and it was Ghost. It was Ryan Berger that took Cook.
But you know that's Dalvin's brother.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know. Did you ever watch him?
No, not really.
Yeah, if you watch him right next to Ricky Slade, if you watch him back to back, you'll be like, oh my gosh,
Slade by a mile.
By a mile. And then the next guy was the who got picked right after my pick? It was the only guy that was not a freshman that I was considering. The guy
Anthony
from
Ratliff-Williams. Ratliff-Williams.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on him?
I don't know a ton about him, actually. I was surprised he went that high.
Oh, okay. So the only reason I looked him up was because I saw a post on Twitter and I was like, oh, I should check this guy out. And I checked him out when I was on the clock at 4 because I was kind of thinking maybe I wanted somebody that could be a professional faster than 3 years from now.
That's what I always try to shoot for upperclassmen.
Yeah, I seen you picked Johnson.
Yeah.
With your
Did
first
you like that?
Yeah, I liked that one, but I didn't even know about him.
It was probably a reach, but I don't care.
No, I watched him after you picked him. I didn't even realize he was a thing.
Yeah.
And then St. Brown went right after him.
Yeah.
So I kind of figured he would go though.
I mean, like,
I need to take a freaking wide receiver here.
Like I won't. I mean, you can watch these 10 rounds. I'll probably take like 2 freshmen.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just usually take upperclassmen.
I'll probably take 8 freshmen. But it's worked out pretty good. The first year I took Barkley, so
I'm kind of to the point where I'm like, am I going to be playing fantasy football in 4 years? I don't even know.
Don't even do that.
Oh, I'm serious. I kind of think about that stuff sometimes.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Is there like something pulling you in a different direction, or are you getting frustrated with stuff, or what?
No, neither one really. I just kind of think like how long can I keep putting 30 hours a week into fantasy?
Oh, see, I don't. So maybe that's the difference.
Well, maybe I just need to back off.
You know that because you constantly have to remind me to do stuff. It's okay. You can say I realize that I'm frustrating as a owner in league.
Oh no, you're not. I don't care.
But I also appreciate it very much that you give me a heads up on stuff. Huh. So, yeah, I don't want to tell you these guys because one of them's an upperclassman. Maybe I should find another guy.
I have no idea who I'm taking for what it's worth.
I've made some really bad picks in this thing.
Oh man, I'm sure we all have.
Yeah, I know. But last year I took that Davis Mills with my first round pick.
Yeah.
That Stanford quarterback.
Yep.
So has everybody been putting in their tags in KS?
I haven't looked. The deadline is
Do
next
you have
week.
all yours in?
No.
Oh.
I'll probably put mine in like right at the deadline. No, you have until a week from today, actually.
Oh, okay.
The 20th is the deadline.
So you haven't spent a lot of time on these incoming freshmen then?
No.
Were you surprised that Shorter was the first pick?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean,
he gets a lot of publicity.
Right. I mean, I think it was just whatever position you were going. Like it was either Shorter or White.
Oh, I'm glad you high on White as maybe I am.
I mean, like I probably won't target those guys in KS leagues.
Oh, I'll end up getting some of those guys because I'll have to get $1 guys. But you would probably even avoid them then, huh? Probably still try to get upperclassmen.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just like my strategy. Hey, I need some Devi money in KS4.
KS4 is the one that I really need Devi players.
I just want $3.
Oh.
Or however many spots I have. I think maybe I only need $2.
How many spots do I have?
I don't know.
You probably know that first. And how many dollars do I have? I would have to know too. So, do you know anything about that Devin Williams, the guy that went to USC?
Nope.
Okay.
Is he?
He's a wide receiver. He's really big.
No, I don't know.
He looks like, it's going to sound horrible, he looks like that guy that was at Ole Miss.
Which one?
Oh, man, what was his?
A long time ago?
No, here just a couple years ago was a Devi Darling, and I think he went undrafted.
Oh, wait, hold on. Shoot. Da'Keel Williams? No, he was Auburn. Oh, he was Auburn.
Yeah, that's who he reminds me of.
Yeah, Duke Williams, man. He was.
I love that guy.
I did
and
too. I thought
watched this Devin Williams the other. I should look. Maybe they're brothers. I don't know. I watched him the other day, and I was like, "Oh my god, that's him." And
that's funny. Maybe they are brothers.
I didn't even think of that. I'm gonna look it up right now.
Is it just Devin?
Devin. His older brother, his name is D'Angelo, and he's been in prison since he was in 10. So since he was 10, so I think I'm clear on that. But he's six. This thing says he's 6'4", 205 pounds, and he's almost going to be 18.
Oh, he's not 18 yet?
Or he just turned 18.
Man, he looks like I wouldn't want to mess with him. Like, look at him. Jeez.
He's a big guy. Are you watching video of him?
No, I'm just looking at his I almost said his mugshot. Just his headshot.
Yeah. Okay.
Jeez.
There's a couple of catches that he made where he jumped over guys, and he looks like he can jump through a gym, but he's playing in high school. You never really know.
Yeah.
So I watched him, and then I went and watched Julio Jones from high school.
You're ridiculous, man.
What?
I just think this is funny. Go ahead.
So I go, because he looks like just a beast. He looks like a monster that doesn't belong anywhere. You know, like there's no way he can be a high school player. So I go to watch Julio Jones in high school. And Julio Jones is an actual monster in high school. This guy doesn't look like a monster anymore. So I'm like, okay, that tamed down the expectations a little bit.
That's funny.
I do that kind of stuff though. You don't dig it like I do. Not that way.
These ESPN rankings are weird. Like, there's a bunch of guys in the top 10 that I've never even heard of, and then some of the guys lower I'm more familiar with. I wonder if they're just that different from some of the others.
Where do you go for like your go-to, or don't you?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't have a go-to. I mean, just whatever. Like, I'll just usually Google or YouTube and just kind of whatever comes up. But I mean, as far as like Scout versus 24/7 versus ESPN or whatever, like I don't prefer one to the other.
Yeah, okay.
I'm waiting for Price to accept this trade. Come on.
What did you offer him?
The best deal that he mentioned, which was Carson, and a second rounder. Best deal for me, not best deal for him. Oh, man.
I wonder if there's a quarterback that I should take instead. To try to add is there any college quarterbacks I should take that you're not gonna?
That I'm not going to?
Who's the next one you're gonna take? Actually, is the better question.
Tell me the player that's on your radar.
At quarterback, you don't need any more of those in the super flex league.
Nobody is on my radar actually, so I have no idea. I don't know. I wonder
any. So I did a little bit of looking when I made my first round pick. Like, there's no obvious college quarterbacks that should be owned in this. Everyone I found was owned.
Well, I mean, Herbert was the one that was available, and Nathan got him.
Well, yeah, he got picked second overall, right? The guy from
right.
Yeah.
What about is Nick Fitzgerald rostered?
Yes, I looked him up. I'll go check to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, Kelly Bryant maybe. I don't know if he's rostered. I don't really know if he can play quarterback in the NFL at all.
George took him in round 7 2 years ago.
Okay. This league is so crazy.
Yeah, it's so deep. So, yeah, I don't know.
I'd probably just take a freshman quarterback.
See, I kind of feel like I could, get that guy later. Maybe not.
The freshman quarterback, are you looking at a freshman quarterback?
Well, I mean, a guy. I could get a guy later on. Maybe I'm wrong, though. You think everybody will be looking at that freshman group and just pick all those 4-star and 5-star? I think the 5-star guys are gone, obviously. That Lawrence is supposed to be the big name. Lawrence and Daniels are the two big names.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they went right away.
Well, the Georgia kid, Fields.
Fields?
Yeah, Justin Fields.
From Georgia?
He's the best one.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he went 8th overall.
Yeah.
And Lawrence went 3rd overall. And Daniels went 11th. And then
Who's Daniels?
Robinson. I didn't even look him up.
Who is Daniels?
The guy from USC.
Oh, okay.
He looked really good. But
Yeah,
watching high school stuff.
I've got a couple. There's a couple quarterbacks I like that I would probably take.
Care to share a name?
Freshman.
Oh, really?
Couple of interesting ones.
Can you tell me if one of them is Tanner McKee?
Tanner McKee?
From Stanford.
No, that's not a name I've seen yet.
Okay. So he's not ranked high in any of the ones I've looked at, but I looked at ESPN and one other thing. I don't know, just to get names. And he wasn't high, but he was like 6'6" and looks big. He looks he's 220 pounds. So, and man, the guy can write everything. So,
I mean, who's Stanford's starter next year? Who's the guy that took over at the end of the season? What? It was Mills, wasn't it?
Was it?
Somebody took over at the end of the season and played well. Let me see what I can find.
Yeah, I should look it up. Because the one guy transferred, didn't he?
Eller Chris transferred.
Chris transferred, yeah. And then, didn't they have that Costello?
Oh, that's who it is.
Yeah.
That's who it is that took over.
But I think he got hurt in the spring game or in the...
Oh, really?
Yeah. Or he got hurt. I can't remember. I saw it on ESPN.
You know what kind of stinks about this league? Is that there are never any trades.
Well, you can't have them, can you?
I mean, even like we could trade Devy players.
You can?
Sure.
But, a couple of years ago when I was trying to hold on at the end, when I was winning it, I think I thought I asked you, maybe I asked Scott, and they said, no, you can't trade. But maybe that was only...
Yeah, you can't trade through MFL.
Okay.
Because it's like best ball, no transactions in the end season kind of thing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
you can't make your team better.
Costello is going to miss spring practice.
I don't know if that means anything.
I don't know if it does either. Hip injury. But you don't have Costello. You have the other one.
I have the other one.
Oh, okay. All right. I got to get off here.
Who's the quarterback I should take?
I don't know. I don't know who I'm going to take.
You said you weren't going to take a rookie or a freshman rookie.
I'm changing my mind. Here, I'll just tell you this. Go look at Dynasty Football Factory. They have a ton of stuff.
Oh, really?
Yep. They actually have a lot more Devy stuff than we do. Like a lot more.
Who does their Devy stuff?
Just a bunch of random guys.
Nobody that's ever been with DLF?
No.
They don't really have rankings, though?
They do have rankings, but they don't go very deep because they're trying to sell this. They're trying to sell their Devy guide. So you have to you got to more read the articles to find some, but they've at least got some names to put on your radar kind of thing.
Sure. Oh, they have like mock drafts and stuff.
Yeah, there you go. I was pointing you in the right direction.
Okay, thanks, buddy. I appreciate at least that much. Yeah, I can't tell you who, but I can tell you where to look.
I can tell you where to find it.
Oh, there's a guy I never even knew existed.
Hey,
So I guess I can go with that.
who you got? Who?
Joey Gatewood?
Yeah.
I didn't
That
even
was-
I don't even think he's on this.
That was one of them. I mean, it's at least a name to look up and kind of see.
Yeah, I'll watch him right
kinda
now.
Check him out.
For sure.
All right.
Okay, dude. Good
See ya.
talking to you, buddy.
You too, bud.